What is up, Rad Potential YouTube? Welcome to today's video. This is going to be some substantial changes to the RX8, and I hope you are excited to see the front end of this thing get revamped. So, this week has been a little bit crazy around here, and I say around here meaning for me. We haven't done much at all in the shop for probably about 6 days. We went and rescued an RX8 for Calvin this past weekend. I was out of town for a wedding. And then that blue and black engine, well, I sent it back last week to my buddies to put it in their car. They got it in the car. It was doing the same thing. Now, I am very detailed when I build these engines, and I was pretty sure the last time that there wasn't an issue. We found the oil control ring thing. We replaced them with OEM Mazda seals, fresh coolant seals, put it back together, took it back up there, and it's not smoking excessively, but had a little bit of smoke, and it would die when you hook the fuel pump up. So we troubleshot the problem, figured it out. Turns out the Adaptronic ECU had some weird parameter set where it was maxing the duty cycle out of the injectors once the engine would start going. So basically once it transitioned off of cranking fuel, it was maxing the duty cycle out. So that's why it would run with the fuel pump not hooked up, because it was basically just holding the injectors open. And anyways, we got that sorted out. Got it all dialed, but I didn't really film any of that. We were at their shop. Wasn't my place to film it. So we got that done. All sorted. Engine's good to go. They're figuring out that. But the RX8, so that kind of took up the earlier part of the week. So now we get to work on this. We're behind. I had to reschedule my alignment, which kind of sucks. And we have this giant sheet of white plastic here. And you're like, holy cow, that's really flimsy. Look how bent it is. Yes. So what this is, and what we're doing, we need to improve the ducting on the front of the RX8. Okay, I don't have any of the factory under tray stuff. My car was in a collision. When it got fixed, they didn't put that stuff back on, or it got lost during oil changes, or what have you, right? The car was really just a street car before I got it, so I'm sure they never had issues with it overheating. On the track, though, and at the Dragon, that ducting is very important, okay? Your skid plate, your side panels, your trays, the whole deal. So Ernie from Phalanx Performance here, the guy whose hat I always wear, awesome dude, he had a turbo red RX8 at the Dragon. Now, RIP the turbo RX8's engine because it blew up, but after he was making runs on the Dragon, his oil temps never got over 240 degrees. Now, that's a turbo. My car, full stock engine, saw 262, 263, and I don't have any of that ducting. And all he has, stock radiator, or I guess it has an aluminum radiator, which I have an aluminum radiator, but stock oil coolers, stock placement, stock ducting, stock all the under trays, 20 degrees cooler, guys, 20 degrees. So, as much as I wish I could go find all the stock RX8 ducting, I think we might be able to do it a little bit better. I say that, but then again, Mazda is the best. They did design this car, so I'm sure that their ducting is more than sufficient. But we're going to set this up and try to improve it. So we're not running the crash bar. We're deleting that. It doesn't fit with the cold air intake, which is fine. I'm going to clean up the grill so we can get more air through the grill. We're removing the fog lights, which I'll bring those over to Charles' house this weekend. He wants them for the blue car. So the fog lights being gone is going to open up that hole in the bumper. You see there, you should see it in the... We start assembling it to be able to flow more air into the oil coolers, okay? I talked with one of my buddies, and his suggestion was grab a couple brews and a pick and a needle nose pliers and fix your oil cooler. And I don't know that I have the patience or the time for that. So we're most likely going to run this like this oil cooler, these being a little smashed up, with the new ducting and just see what it does. And if it's still very poor, then we'll probably replace these oil coolers with new ones, because as much money as you save fixing it yourself, I would just rather start fresh with new ones. So that's the plan there. We are going to remove the yellow Rubbermaid container lid ducts here and make new ones. And that whole long story leads to, we're using this plastic to make the ducting, right? This plastic is what you would use. You can see it's textured on this side. Is what you would use if you were doing like some wallboard in a bathroom, right? Like a budget bathroom, you throw this stuff on the wall. It's waterproof, doesn't get into your drywall, etc., like a shower wall, right? You can get a sheet of this from Home Depot for $38. Now, you might say, why not make your mock-up pieces out of cardboard? That is true. I eventually want to make all the pieces that I'm going to make with this plastic out of aluminum. However, aluminum is really expensive to mess up. So if I have to buy a sheet of aluminum, it's going to be over $100. And if I mess it up, then I got to spend more money. Whereas with this, I can make all my ducts. I think I can go test it at the track with this in there, the plastic. And if I melt the plastic, so be it. I'll remake a piece so that I can then transfer that over to aluminum and make all new panels for the front of this car out of aluminum. Now, I won't have the inner fenders, okay? That's an unfortunate thing. I don't know how important it is to seal off the under tray here to the inner fenders, but what is going to be dope is that I'm going to find some like tubing, much like what was used over there on my first gen rear end to cool the brakes on the first gen. But I want to find some tubing that I can run through. So on the lower valence, there's a section that bypasses the radiator ducting, and I want to run ducts from there to my brakes. So it'll effectively run right down here. We'll zip tie it to the control arm or the sway bar or something and get it down, and then we can drill and mount a piece of pipe right here that can come and clamp onto, and that should give it plenty of room that we can steer. It'll miss everything, and we can cool the brakes off. Do we really need it? No, I didn't notice any major brake fade issues at the track, so it wasn't a huge deal. The track I run's pretty long and open, so I don't see that being a huge issue, but eventually that's what that hole in the front end can be used for. So with that, I'm going to start cutting pieces, fitting pieces, putting the bumper on and off 500,000 times. And once I get to a good stopping point where I have one side done and just need to recreate it all for the other side, we'll break in the video and I'll show you guys what I came up with. So I'm hoping that this stuff, it cuts with a 10 snips super easy. And if I waste a whole sheet of it, I waste a whole sheet of it. And eventually, like I said, I'm going to replace this LRB under tray with like an under tray that's one piece for the whole front. Because eventually I'd like to have actual aero, like a fully supported splitter on this car. And then in addition to that, we'll do a rear diffuser and a wing eventually. I don't know that we'll ever need it to go fast. Maybe we won't have enough power to really utilize aero, but we're going to try. So that's the long-winded intro to a lot of me spending time cutting plastic and fitting stuff. And hope you guys enjoy it because I'm stoked to make this thing cool. And I still got to fix my fuel leak and my transmission issues. So that might just be in another video, or I might just will it fixed around that. And we'll polish the headlights, I promise. Maybe. So let's get to it. Well, I hope you guys can see from just that little bit of video how much time it takes troubleshooting and building ductwork. Now, this is definitely my first time doing one as involved with like an RX8. On a first gen, it's pretty simple to make some triangles to direct some air into the radiator, but the concept's largely the same. I'm pretty happy with how this is looking. You really can't see much of it from here, but I'll pull the bumper off here in a second. You'll be able to see all of it. And we'll compare my ductwork here in a second as well to the stock ductwork on that side and just like what was there. This plastic stuff is actually really easy to work with. I like it. You can use cardboard, then transfer it to the plastic. The plastic, just like, it's way more firm than cardboard. So when you make a template or make a piece out of this, I feel like if I transfer this to an aluminum piece, it's going to fit way closer, way quicker, without wasting as much aluminum. You know what I mean? Because I've remade a couple of these panels and I've just been cutting that white piece apart. So if you look in here, kinda, you can see all that blackness, but the white, I've got the oil cooler directly absorbing all of the airflow from this whole hole. The whole hole. The entirety of the hole is going through the oil cooler. There's a bottom plate in here, top plate, sides, and I'll seal all that up with tape and foam. Over here, on the stock side, you can already see that there's a hole right here where the fog light would have been. So some of that air is escaping, but largely the rest of this hole is getting directed through the oil cooler. So not necessarily a ginormous improvement, but we are getting about another, we'll say 20 to 25% of airflow, which is a win. So we'll come around to the back and show you down here. So now here you can see all the white that I've put in there. So I've got a bottom plate now that seals just the bottom of the bumper. It's basically making the under tray bigger. The stock one would have hooked like this as well, but I kind of pushed mine up a little further, just following the radius of the oil cooler. I'm not really too worried about like the inner fender radius, as I won't have one of those. We're just trying to push air through this and then evacuate the air. You can see there's some room right here, which once the bumper's off, it's easier to see, but for some brake ducting, which will be dope. So I'll pop the bumper off real quick and show y'all what that. All right, so this is what we've got with the bumper off. You can see the opening here, big. Now I did have this piece cut a little bit short, so I did kind of, miss a little bit of that angle, but no big deal. This panel sits up flat like that, so this part's blocked off. This is that extra hole I was telling you that'll work great for brake ducting, so it goes back, and I can duct that in to the left there. This panel is mounted to the radiator shroud up here, and then I have it just zip tied in. I don't think for this ducting, until I can make it out of aluminum and build little 90-degree tabs on everything and like bend this, that these zip ties will be just fine. So I'll put some bigger zip ties on it and it'll be okay. It's also mounted with some of these like nutsert kind of deals to this aluminum tray, and then zip tied with big zip ties up here. So largely too, the front bumper supports the bottom of this. So there you can kind of see it. Big suction into the radiator here, lots of airflow. I'm going to run that panel that goes up here to direct this air down so that there's still just going to be that negative pressure area up here where this air filter is going to sit, which I can actually show you that as well. So the cold air intake air filter, it's a little tough to do with one hand, but largely you guys get the gist of it. This is going to sit just like that. So you can see plenty of room underneath that, plenty of room for the air filter to catch air as well. So all this stuff will foam all of it. I'll grab some foam from the parts store and we'll put a nice big thick piece of like HVAC foam up through here. We'll tape along all the cracks or put foam on one of the interfaces. Same thing, since this duct right here is just fixed to the oil cooler and the bumper fits over it. I'm going to trim that bottom piece off. But I will go ahead and tape all of this together so that this is one piece, which it basically is. And then this will mount just to the front of the oil cooler with those 3 bolts. So that's all that's holding this. And then it just braces itself. These radiuses fit nicely into the front of the bumper, or the back of the front bumper, so that it sits tight. I'm real happy with how that came out. I don't know that this bottom piece right here is necessarily necessary, but it does add a bunch of rigidity to the bottom of the bumper, so I'll be able to recreate that for this side. The nice thing is pretty much everything should just mirror itself. The cutout for the AC line right here will be different on this side because the AC line's in a different location, but largely the shape of this piece, this should all be symmetrical. I can basically just cut them out exactly like they are and then take it and flip it over and it would fit over here. So effectively, aside from the oil cooler duct, this piece and this piece will fit on either side, to just cut them and zip tie them in. So I'm pretty content with how that's shaken out. So I'll get the other side done and we'll see the whole front end of this put together, and I'll get some tape and some foam like I said, and we'll put that on. and we'll get back to it. So I'm gonna like go to work, go to the store, do all that whole deal. We'll build all this, and then we'll be back. But that size of duct just looks so much better than the little duct that is here, you know? And I'm sure that this little duct is super effective. You know, Mazda designed it. But I just really feel like I'm able to capture everything that's coming through that hole versus just capturing like 60% of it. So pretty amped. I also chopped off the crash bar cross piece, and dude, this car's been hit on this side because this side's frame horn is higher than this frame horn. The front end sits like this. So it's kind of interesting, but it is what it is. We'll build out that other side and look at it when it's all done. Bam. Look at that. Airflow has to go through the radiator now and the oil coolers. All right, guys. It's the end of day 2 in the shop working on the front oil cooler situation, and I am honestly stoked for how this came out. We're not 100% done with it yet, and this is just version 1. Try to make the ducting better than no ducting, right? So directed everything to the oil cooler. Nailed it. That whole entire hole goes to that oil cooler now. This empty hole will eventually go to brakes. Everything else up here goes to the radiator or the air cleaner. Let's hop over to this side. This side was tricky, and it's still not perfect, but it's perfect enough to end the video. Y'all have never really seen the front of my car, but it's been crashed, and the bumper doesn't fit very well at all. So we're discovering things. That side, the oil cooler bracket's bent. This side, it's not the same as that side. So my ducting didn't just like mirror, copy, paste, flip over for this. The bottom side of this, however, the lower panel, which you can see, it actually fits if I push it. So like if I hold this up and pull the bottom of the bumper back, it fits in there. So it just has to kind of, you know, hold the bumper down. But this oil cooler sits further tipped this way than that side. That side, the oil cooler's bent back. So it is what it is. But same thing, ducting, nicely sealed, nicely directing the airflow into the oil cooler. I got a little hole up there I got to patch. Same thing over here, brake duct eventually. So we've effectively increased, like I said, the frontal area of the oil cooler by like 30% probably. We got rid of, I think I still have the stock duct here. So you can see right here that this was the stock duct before, where albeit yes, it did flow air to all of the oil cooler, largely just flowed air to that little fog light looking section of it, you know? So now the entirety of the oil cooler is open. The entirety of this hole goes to that. And I'm pretty piped up. I'm stoked. This is good. So that is going to be the end of oil cooler ducting on my car. We can pop the bumper off, and I'll show you all of it off. But largely, the front bumper is very race car-ish now. I basically refuse to get those little bungee cord things that hold your bumper on to your fender. I really don't want to drill my fender. I would rather like delete the fog light or find a way to mount this bumper down here, or put like one of those little quick button things in the bumper. I really don't want to modify the fenders at all. So maybe we'll figure that out at some point. I mean, the bumper's not going to fly off at the track, and if the corners pop out, who cares? It's not like we need that much aerodynamic efficiency for this thing. This bolt is stuck. I hand tightened it too tight for my own hands. I hate it when that happens. Oh, come on. Okay. Let's pop this baby down. That side out. Comes right off. Easy peasy. Okay, so here is the front end with all the ducting. It looks weird because the little airplane wings on the bottom are hanging down. They're not held up by the bumper. And largely, those wing pieces are super nice because it helps hold my bumper. Before, the bottom corners of the bumper weren't mounted to anything. They were just floating. So you can see oil cooler ducts 1 right there. Oil cooler ducts 2, not perfect. I still think I need to shorten the top one a bit because it's hitting the bumper, and that'll help me fit a little bit better. All of this stuff, once I have it finalized, and I like the fitment, and I have which I like the fitment right now, so it's finalized. And I put my clamps on the intercooler. Wish it had an intercooler. The intake pipe. I'm going to go through with some of that foil tape and tape all the seams, and then I didn't make it to the Home Depot or whatever today to get some of that thick HVAC like foam sealant tape to be able to seal the interfaces where this sits up against stuff. So we'll put that foam tape on the edges of the oil cooler things there. We'll, gaff tape the edges, make sure this is all sealed, and then we'll slide the bumper on. And in addition to that, I'll probably put a piece of tape along this edge that's just flimsy, so that all these edges have really flimsy tape things on them. Then when the bumper pushes into it, it can just either push that out of the way or push into it, or that'll help seal it off even better to keep the airflow from escaping. So I'm super happy with that. There is a panel, and it is this one that would have went right here effectively and closed this gap from this point to this point. But I think we're just going to roll with the standard, seal the top of this off, and there's going to be kind of a low pressure area up in here where some weird stuff might happen, but I think largely the high pressure, throwing stuff, all the air will just go through the radiator. And we're still running this area, the engine bay, as just open. We don't have a vented hood yet. I probably won't cut a hole in the green one, but I'll find another hood to cut a big hole in, and then we'll buff the headlights, and this thing will go. The headlight buff will be plus 10 seconds on the track for sure. So, but I'm largely stoked with how this came out. It looks great. It's going to function even better. I say it looks great. It looks like a bunch of bathroom parts from Home Depot on my car, but it's doing what it needs to do, and it was cheap. And if we don't like it, if it doesn't work, we'll rip it all off. So, for $30, I'd rather fail with this than $150 worth of aluminum. So, pretty stoked. So with that, guys, that's the end of this video. I'm amped. We got the ductwork done. Track day is in like a week. So we'll get the car in for its alignment next week. Fortunately, it's just my neighbor, so he's probably just going to drive the car to work one day, align it, and then drive it home. So we'll get the wiring stuff fixed. I'll have him do that like next week, Wednesday. And then this will all should be ready for the track. So this weekend, I've got to tear down an engine, another REW rebuild, and we're going to figure out a way to make that engine run on the engine stand. So get stoked for that, so we can run REWs, just because with the last hiatus, I really want to be able to prove that the engines, because I could do it with all the other ones, I just can't do it with REWs or RX8 engines, but I want to be able to run the engine on the stand before I give it back to whomever I built the engine for, because then I know the engine is good, ready to rip, ship it back, put it in your car, and then it's your car's problem. So, yeah, that's where we stand. Engine teardown, and another super important thing, albeit we're not going to put one of the Corbos that's in my ceiling in. If you remember from my silver first gen, I have a red Sparko seat in that car. I'd like to put that seat in here, and I'm probably going to do a little bit more weight reduction as well. So there's a lot of weight to be pulled out of the rear doors. We're going to pull the rear door panels and stuff, get rid of all of that. And then I kind of don't want to pull the front door panels because window switches and stuff, and keeping it reasonably nice in the front. But I may, for the track day, because no one's riding along with me, pull the passenger seat and I want to pull the curtain airbags and probably pull the headliner out as well. Just try to get as much weight out of it as possible. That's easy for now. And for right now, I haven't quite decided if we're going full race car with this thing yet. Like I said, it is kind of nice as a street car, and I think we may kind of try to take it as fast as we can go before we do permanent modifications to the chassis, meaning like sunroof delete, cut weight out of the doors, Lexan glass, that sort of stuff. So with that, guys, drop a comment below if you learned something. Drop a comment below if you got any questions about RX8 stuff, and in the comments as well, let me know if there's anything specific you want to see filmed in the next video. So with that, guys, thank you guys very much for watching. Like I said earlier in the video, this week's been hectic, so I'm amped to just get this milestone done. We'll get the front bumper slap back on it. We'll start working on the back of the car again and get it dialed for the track. So thank you guys again for watching. Keep it rad. We'll see you in the next one. Peace. Come here. So Letty has been trying to find something that's been in my lawnmower. She even put the hood up and has been looking under the hood trying to find whatever she's trying to find. I have no idea. Just like some good mowed grass. Some good whatever. Letty, come here. Come here. Hey, come here. Come here. Come here. I gotta ask you a question. Is the RX8 gonna go into the 220s at NCM? Walk away from me if yes. She's not going yet. Hey. Go. Go. Go get it. Who's here? Go get it. Go. Run. Look at that. She's walking away. We're going in the 220s. We're going to shave 4 seconds. 228s. Here we come. Peace, guys.